Good evening, YouTubers. T.O. here, Simplistic Fishing, back at you tonight to talk to you a little bit more about fall bass fishing. We talked last time about lures and all that good stuff, but I didn't really talk to you too much about where to find them and really how to locate them and things like that. And so I had actually a couple subscribers ask me, we're going out to Hubbard here in a couple weeks, where should we be fishing? Or we're going out to Fork here in a couple weeks, where should we be trying to locate and find the fish? So I thought, that would be a great segment, a good video to do for you guys. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk to you about kind of where more specifically to find those fish in the fall, and then I'll throw in the lures as well to kind of help you out, or at least remind you of the lures that we talked about in the last video. Let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Let's see what we can discover tonight. Here we go. All right, so you hear us talk all the time about fall bass fishing, and one of the key things about fall fishing, especially, well, pretty much all fall until you get into really, really late fall, and it's still the case, is that it's really all about feeding. They're just feeding. And the shad that they're feeding on, a lot of times, are just really tiny shad. I mean, they're literally not even probably as big as my thumb. Very small shad, but lots of big schools of these shad. And you should start seeing them on sunnier days or even cloudier days where you have pretty good light conditions. You should start to see those balls of shad. And if you're seeing balls of shad, there's bass somewhere close by. So that's really what you want to focus on when it comes to fall bass fishing, is locating the bait fish. If you can find the bait fish, you're going to find the bass. I can almost guarantee it. But sometimes it can be a little bit tricky finding the bait fish. So a couple things you're going to want to do when you're out there on Hubbard or any of these local lakes. First thing you want to do when you put your boat in the water is you want to start looking for birds. All right, so look for the birds, and really you want to look for either those white birds or the gray birds. Supposedly the gray birds eat the bigger fish and the white birds eat the littler or smaller minnows. I don't really know. I don't study birds, but I just say, look, if there's a bunch of birds lined up on a bank line, I'm definitely going to fish around that area. Or if there are just a bunch of birds off of a certain part of a point, I'm definitely going to go over there and fish that area, because they're there because there's bait fish that the fish have corralled into that area and pushed up, and the birds are very aware of it. Now, you know that if the birds are aware of it underneath the water, the largemouth, they're definitely aware of it too, and they're probably the ones causing that bait to be pushed up. Now, sometimes you get into a mess where it's just white bass doing that, but if you're on a largemouth fishery, it's definitely the largemouth that are pushing those shad up there. So think about that when you go out. Pay a lot of attention to that, because fall can be frustrating sometimes because they move around so much. They're just chasing bait. And one day you'll find them in one spot and you'll say, man, I found the perfect honey hole. I just caught 20 fish in this one area. Maybe not 20, but I caught 5 fish in this one area and I saw 20 on the graph. And I know they're going to be there. The next day you go there, they're gone. And then if you look around in the graph, there's no bait. Well, they left because the bait left. So you've really got to just be on your game and really be tracking, the bait and where it's going. Now, when we talk about that, there's some easier stuff to be able to find that. You don't just go out on the lake and just zoom left and right all the way down and pray that you come across some shad at some point, which you probably would, but that might take you all day. So what we do is we talk about in the fall, especially right now. Right now is a great time to do this. You want to focus on the creeks, okay? So anywhere where you've got creeks or running water that's coming into the back of the pockets, those are always great places to focus on. And that's probably what you hear me say pretty much all times of the season, but creek channels, creeks and things like that, those are huge, right? Those are huge because they're little highways for the bass to travel on, as well as the bait fish to travel on as well. So what I did is I just kind of drew up this thing, and hopefully you guys can see it okay. I'm going to try to put it right here to where you can see it all right, and I'm actually going to try to focus in on this a little bit so you can see it a little better. So what I've done here is I've really just created just my own little version of a cove that you're coming into, and you'll see the blue dots right here. These blue dots represent the creek channel, and then the black area, that really represents the bank line. And then you can see right up in here, I've just got some standing timber, and then these little boxes, they're going to represent docks. So what I want you to do is when you're out there fishing and you're thinking about, coming up. Let me see if I can focus this back a little bit. When you're coming in from, from the main lake, and let's say you're coming in from down here, I want you to look at each one of these coves or these pockets and kind of look at them like we're going to look at this drawing. So the first thing we're going to say is, all right, let's take the first thing out is we're going to look at docks, okay? So if our fishery, like Hubbard, doesn't have a lot of grass in it, hydrilla and things like that, they're still going to be back in those creeks. They're still following those creeks, but they got to have stop places, right? Places to hang out. And those places to hang out aren't going to be on a weed line or something like that because there's no weed line there. There's no grass there. So they're going to go to the next cover. That's either going to be standing timber, which is going to be right in here, or that's going to be your docks. So your docks are probably going to be the first place that they stop to, right? And also the last place that they stop to as they're going back out to the main lake. So if I'm on here, and hopefully, let me see if I can stand up so you guys can see this a little better. If I'm coming in here from the main lake, go ahead and just guess right here, which docks are you going to fish? Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 10 different docks here. And I can tell you that if I came into this pocket, I'm probably only going to fish 4 of them, 5 of them, 6 of them. I'm going to fish 6 of them. All right. Now you're probably like, what in the world are you talking about? Why would you fish 6 of them? Let's go ahead and point them out to you. And again, think about this when you go into your lake, when you're out there fishing, Hubbard or anywhere else. When you go into these pockets, visually look at it, figure out where your creek channel is, right? Here's your creek channel. And anywhere where that creek channel comes close to a dock, you're going to fish that dock, okay? Right here, prime dock, right? Right there, that's a good dock as well. These docks are so-so, so you may fish those docks, those two. This one right here is primo because it's right there, right off the side of the creek channel, and then also one over here as well on the creek channel. Now, most of the guys that are going to come in, they're going to say, oh, the guy told me to fish docks. They're going to start coming over here, and they're going to fish 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're going to be 4 docks in and probably give up on docks and say that I'm an idiot before they ever even get to that dock that they're actually supposed to be fishing. So really pay attention to that creek channel, and then use that creek channel as kind of your map to what you're going to fish in that pocket. And so that way it's going to make you a lot more effective. You're fishing in high percentage areas. This is a high percentage area. That's a high percentage area, another high percentage area, and another high percentage area there for those docks. Now you're only fishing 4 docks, and they're all high percentage areas as opposed to fishing these docks over here, which aren't really doing you any good. Right, and yeah, you may catch a fish, a little dink or something like that, or just get lucky with the brush pile being over there. But percentages say you're going to be a lot better off if you just come over here. Sorry about that. Just come over here and fish the docks that are their more high percentage areas. All right, so that's going to be docks. So that's the first thing we're going to look at is docks when we come in. The next thing, obviously, and really the other first thing I should say, like let's say if we're on Fork or somewhere like that, the first thing that obviously I would be looking for is hydrilla. So I was just out at Lake Fork last weekend pre-fishing for Landon's THSBA tournament with him. And we were out there. We had to get a rental boat because Steve's still in the shop. But we were out there fishing. And really, I could not locate the smaller fish. Obviously I wasn't going for giants. But I couldn't locate any of those fish until I got around hydrilla or some type of grass. Once I got around the grass, I found the bait fish. I immediately started finding the fish. And so basically that would be a pattern that we would just look for. Like we're looking for any type of grass, any type of matted vegetation. If I found that, I found the bait fish and we found the fish. And they caught over 20 fish during that tournament. They just didn't have a lot of weight. Came in with, I think, 6.8 pounds because of the slot limit. And I think the total weight that won that tournament was 10.7. But they still got 11th place out of 212 boats, I think it was. So very, very impressive and a great way to start the season. But anyways, let's get back to this and let's talk about this. Now, we've got the docks. We want to talk about next is, I think really you would look at flooded timber. So if there's flooded timber in the area, which I've kind of put me a little drawing here of an imaginary flooded timber. So let's say you're coming into this pocket and maybe the dock pattern's off that day. Docks just aren't firing up very well. And maybe even they push further back in here. This dock may be too far up in that pocket to actually fish. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll move back up here. This dock may be too far up in the pocket to fish, you might be wanting to fish the docks further back. Maybe these two are your primary docks. But anyways, if you're coming back in there, also check the flooded timber, especially if you're coming off of a cold front. So maybe something major has changed, some kind of major weather pattern change, especially cold. If that has happened, it's possible that they're going to pull off from these structures, or sorry, this cover, like these docks and things, and pull further out here into the middle, which when they say they're in the middle, they're really in the creek channel. They're not just out here, but they're more here. They're around that creek channel. So they're going to pull out to that creek channel. Well, right here, you have a little junction in the creek channel that you can see that I made here. So you've got a creek channel junction, which is awesome because you know there's going to be debris in there. And then you've also got standing timber. So I would look in here, especially on those cooler days where maybe you've just had a major cold front come in or something like that. Check that area out as well, because that can be a hot spot too. That standing timber, especially standing timber right around those creek channels. So now we've kind of broken it down. We've come in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the creek channel. And then we're going to look for docks that touch the creek channel. We'll fish those docks. If they're standing timber, we'll look to see if they're out in the standing timber. And then the last thing that we're going to look at, which I think is just as important, is the pockets. So the pockets inside of other pockets or other coves and things like that. And the best way to describe it, and I'll try to erase this here in a second so you guys can see it a little bit better, but would be to try to find little areas where they can corral the bait. So if you think about when a sheepdog is actually corralling the sheep, if they're not running around in circles just keeping them in a certain area, they're going to pin them into a corner or something that has some sort of a boundary. Let's say that if I look over here, let's just flip this thing upside down real quick. Let's say that if I have a wall that's like this, right, it just makes the L, that dog is going to corral those sheep into this corner and use this wall and this wall as its addition. There's the walls, right? Just that little L. I know, kind of horrible, but it's going to use that wall to its advantage. Well, a bass is no different. A bass is going to use that same wall to its advantage too. So if it's coming down a bank line here, and let's say that it's coming this way, and then all of a sudden you have a dip in the bank line and it goes like this, they're going to push them right into that area, right? They're going to push them right in to that spot right there, right where that little cove is. And what they'll do is they'll actually kind of set up out here and just have a heyday, just bashing them, going in here and bam, just slamming into them. And you'll actually see them setting up out here and attacking and then going in there and roaming around. So you got to fish that entire pocket, right? You have to fish that whole entire pocket. But you know that that's a high percentage area because they can pin them right into that certain spot. So anyways, I know that's saying a lot, but if we flip this back around, and I'm going to stand back up so you can see this. If I flip this back around and I come in here, I'm looking for spots that I know that they could pin them up in. So maybe they're not as obvious. Well, first one I would say would be right here. So if you look right here, it's possible if they were chasing bait that they could get them coming off of this creek channel, maybe coming this way or something, possibly, or even the other way. And as they're chasing him from that creek channel, they get him here and they pin him right here into this corner. Right? So you have to kind of visually look at this stuff. It's really hard to explain or really hard to coach to you, but look for those areas because that could be a pinch point where they're able to corral them into a corner and just sit there and feed and feed and feed and feed and feed. And those are those magical spots that you think you can find. Now, not every one of these things are going to be magical. In fact, 1 out of every 15 or 20 will be decent. But when you find it, it's great because they've got the bait just pinned in here and they basically won't let them out. And they're just going to chow down on them until pretty much they're all gone. So that's one spot right there. So let's go ahead and erase that one. So don't get confused here. So you're coming down this bank line, there was the little corner, and as we come up here, your next pinch point is actually, let's get rid of that one. Your next pinch point is actually right here. So again, same type thing, right? Right there. We've got that pinch point. They can set up here, follow them down that creek channel, and then slam them into that pocket. And then now they've got them all in here in this pocket. and they are just chowing down, just coming in and just attacking and feeding whenever they want. So another good area to find them if they're chasing bait fish. If you notice, guys, I've told you about several different places, 5 different docks, the standing timber, and now I'm talking about these little things. They could be anywhere, but at least this will give you an idea of where they likely will be. So that would be the second spot where they could corral them. I don't see any spots up in here where they could stop them or anything like that. But if they come over here, possibly over here, they could corral them over here. Now this is kind of off the beaten path, so I don't know if they would be over here. So only if I was forced to fish this pocket the entire thing, or if I was really hard for searching, would I go over here. But this maybe be like a 50% chance you would have, compared to something like maybe over here where it's closer to the creek channel. So anyways, guys, that is pretty much it. If you're going down the bank line and you see one of these pockets, you're going down the bank line like this, and all of a sudden you got a little pocket that's out there. I'm telling you, stop and look every time and just see. If you start seeing bait fish out here on your electronics, on your side imaging or anything like that, you need to stop. You need to stop and you need to fish that pocket, because they've got them pinned in there and they're chowing down and they're having a heyday. So last thing I want to talk to you guys about really is just the lures that you want to use. We talked about the lures last time, but again, guys, this is about moving baits. This is the time of year when you want to go fast. You want to fish the way that everybody likes to fish, right? Just bam, 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 just fishing like crazy. So we're talking spinner baits. We're talking buzz baits and toads. Pretty much anything that moves. Swim baits are huge here with flashy swimmers. Those are great to be using. And pretty much just anything else that's going to have a lot of speed. Your top waters, your walking baits, and other things like that. So guys, I hope that helps you. Next time you go out to the lake, just remember, when you pull into that cove, just stop for a second, or that pocket, just stop for a second and analyze it really quick. And if you do that, you'll probably save yourself about an hour's worth of fishing, because you'll say, okay, I'm in this pocket now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fish those 4 docks, and I think they're going to be my high percentage docks. And if I don't get a fish there, I'm going to switch over and fish the standing timber where that intersection happens, and maybe I find some fish there. And then if that doesn't work, maybe you go to the next pattern where you're looking inside those pockets to see if they've got them pinned inside those pockets. And then whatever pattern you find, once you go in that cove, hopefully you find it, take that and just copy it. Copy it and run that pattern on the rest of the lake, and you are going to just be absolutely shocked at the amount of fish that you can catch. Hey, until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PB. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do. It helps us a ton. We are growing like crazy, and we've also got waypoints out there. So if you need some waypoints, you need some help finding fish, or even if you're a tournament bass fisherman, we've got some great stuff for you that I was able to find from satellite imaging, as well as just looking at contour maps and things like that. So check it out, simplisticfishing.com. Again, till next time, hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.